All right, everybody. Thanks for joining. Tonight is questions and answers. I have a few questions. People have sent me in a few questions. You can send in your questions. It can be on anything that you'd like. It can be personal, even if I might not answer it, or I might answer it privately. But a few questions that I had so far. Okay, number one, the first question that I had was, why do people rock back and forth? Why do Hasidim and people that daven while they're praying, why do they rock back and forth while they pray? Is that significant? Does that signify something? Okay, so two things. One is it helps, the rhythm helps you pray better. It keeps you focused. Yeah, it's kind of like background noise. What's called ambient noise, like white noise, kind of keeps you focused. So the same thing. While you pray, rocking back and forth helps you stay focused. I don't know why. Maybe it just burns some sort of burns some edge off. But on a deeper reason, as we know in Chassidus, everything has a deeper reason. It says the soul is like a flame. And just like a flame flickers, it says Ner Havaya Nishmas Adam, that the soul of God is the flame of God is the soul of man. So your soul is like a flame. And just like a flame sways back and forth and flickers, and it's always trying to leave the wick. It's trying to go back to its source, explains Chassidus. So the same thing, the soul is always trying to, especially when it prays and learns, it's connecting to God, it's connecting to Hashem, it's connecting to his essence, and it's trying to leave the body, so to speak. It's flickering, moving back and forth. It's trying to leave and head up to back to its source. So perhaps this is my soul rocking right now. That was one question. By the way, you can ask me any question that you like. Another question, a question that I had recently, does arranged marriages work? So some of you have already heard this, and I'll just give a very brief explanation on this. How does it work? How do you get married in the Hasidic world? Well, it's very much like anybody get married, except we don't go to a bar or anything like that. You have what's called, and how does the shadchan work? What's a shadchan? Shadchan is a matchmaker. So usually what happens is you'll make a profile. And in the profile, it'll say where you're from, what you're into, what you're looking for, and it'll have a few references. And you hand those to a matchmaker. And who's a matchmaker? A matchmaker is just somebody who knows a lot of people. Somebody that invites a lot of people to their Shabbos table. So like one Friday night, one Shabbos, they'll have a bunch of girls. And the next Friday, they'll have a bunch of boys. And as you can imagine, throughout the months or years that they do this, they get to know a lot of people. So they put themselves out saying, hey, I know a few girls or I know a few guys. If you're looking to date somebody or get married, let me know. Send me a profile. And what's the point of the profile? The point of the profile is you send it to the interested party, someone who you're interested in, and they can do sort of like a background check on you. It's very normal. What was he like growing up? What do you know anything about his family? What is he really looking for? Sometimes we get questions like, have you ever seen him drunk? What does he act like? Yeah, the Gemara, it says there are 4 things that you can tell a person by. It says by his cup, which means by his drink. When he's drunk, how does he act? Kesef, what does he do with his money? Clothing, how does he dress? In other words, how does he project himself? And his head, how does he? I think his head, how intelligent is he? Anyway, so they ask you those kinds of questions, and you find out if the person comes from good stock or not, or something that you would be interested in, and are they on the same page as you? Do they want the same things in their life? Do they want to send their kids to the same kinds of schools? Do they want to they want to have a house similar to yours? So this way, when you go and you actually finally sit down for a date, there's no figuring the person, are we all on the same page? You're on the same page. The only difference is there chemistry? So you sit down in front of one another and you check to see is there chemistry, and very often, no. I'm not. It doesn't work out, and you move on. You get somebody else. So that's really how the process works. Now, with myself, we just had like a mutual friend that met my wife, talked to my wife. Well, she wasn't my wife at the time, and someone that talked to me. He was actually my roommate in yeshiva in Israel. He's actually a Chabad rabbi at Cornell University. And he said, Elia, there's this girl coming into New York. She lives in Boston. Just go out with her. Go get some coffee. And that's how it started. I was like, okay. I didn't even look into her. I just trusted his opinion. And we went out and it was cool. We had a great time. And we're 4 kids later. So that's pretty much the process. It's pretty much the process now. Let's see. What other questions do we have? I can't read the question. Okay. Is anybody, first of all, anybody in the yeshiva right now? I'm doing this Instagram live just because there's some people who can't get onto the Zoom. But anybody have any questions? Oh, my internet connection is unstable. Let's just talk a little bit about, we spoke about hell recently. People wanted to know a little bit about hell. What does that work? So in last week's Parsha, I'm sorry, this is a bit of a repetitive question. Last week's Parsha, we had the idea of how to kosher utensils, how to make utensils kosher that were once used for something not kosher, right? Let's say you cooked a bunch of cheeseburgers inside of a pot. I don't know why you do that. Let's just say you did. So now the pot is not kosher. Now, how do you kosher it? You have to burn it through fire. It says the way that it became not kosher is the way that you make it kosher. So let's say let's just go back to a different example. You had non-kosher spaghetti. Yeah, how do you cook spaghetti? You boil it in a pot. So the way to make it kosher, once again, is you have to wait 24 hours, clean it, wait 24 hours, and then boil water in there. Because it became not kosher through boiling, the way to make it kosher again is through boiling. Another example, let's say you had the oven. Yeah, oven is with fire. You cook something not kosher in there, some bacon strips. Then you have to really self-cleaning the oven is the best. You have to use fire. Now you can take a blowtorch, but the best way to do it is through self-cleaning nowadays. Now, what does that mean on a spiritual level? On a spiritual level, there are things in this world that we do which are unholy. Things that we say, things that how we act. And we know this concept of klipa. We spoke about many times. In the other side, so to speak, shell, things which deny godliness, attach themselves to you, and they attach themselves to you. What happens is when a person passes away, which just means the soul leaves the body, it goes back up to Shammai, back up to heaven. What is that heaven? What does that mean? It goes back to its source, back to godliness, the essence of God. It has these schmutz, it has like dirt attached to it. It has this klippa that's attached to it. So you have to burn it off, so to speak. Not literal burning. You have to remove it. And however stuck it is, or however you acquired it, is the way that it needs to come off. Now, sometimes it could be just, a little bit of washing, or sometimes it has to be boiling water, and sometimes it has to be fire. Now, it's not literal fire, it's not literal boiling water, it's not literal scrubbing. It's a spiritual concept. In order to remove the soul, to make it proper to go back to its source, it has to go through this process, and that process is called Gehenna. It's not a negative process. It's just what you have to do to prepare. Yeah, you send your car back to the lease. You lease the car and you send it back. Yeah, they got to clean it. You got to clear up all the dents and get everything back to the way it was, so that it'll have some resale value. As we know, like we spoke about last week's Parsha, the Arizal says that a soul comes back 4 times. We're all reincarnated souls, and it comes back 4 times to accomplish everything it needs to accomplish. That's why it says Pinchas hu Eliyahu. Pinchas is Elijah the prophet, because the common understanding of that is that he was a reincarnation. Eliyahu is a reincarnation of Pinchas. So that was one of the 4 times. It says that Moses' soul comes back every generation. Every generation has a Nasi, a Moshe of the generation, a Moses of the generation. And that's a reincarnation of Moses. Anyway, so we have to purify ourselves. And the longest period, the longest cleansing period, so to speak, is 11 months. It says even the worst person only spends 11 months in Gehenna. That's why we say the Kaddish, when someone passes away, we say the Kaddish for 11 months. And what does the Kaddish do? The Kaddish elevates the soul. It gives it like an extra push, so to speak. Chabad says it 5 times. We daven 3 times a day, and we say 5 Kaddishes in each davening, corresponding to the 5 levels of the soul: Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, and Yechida. So the most we'll spend is 5 days. Now, there's also something called Gehenim Shel Shelig, which means the Gehenim of snow. Instead of fire, but it's with snow, which means one interpretation, I think an accepted interpretation, is that there are certain people who don't need to spend really much time, but everybody has to go through some sort of cleansing process because it had a connection to the material physical body. So it has an effect upon the soul. So they go through what's called coldness. It's very quick, instantaneous, and their soul goes to where it needs to go, the abode, until it will come back down into the body when Mashiach comes. What was I going to say? The soul, Gehenim Shel Shelig. So some say that it's just, how does the soul get cleansed? Through embarrassment. What happens is it says that when a person passes away, he goes through a din v'cheshbon. He passes judgment, and then passes judgment on himself, and then he sees the evidence. What does that mean? What happens? It says when a person passes away, their entire life is shown before them within a moment of time. And they ask the neshama, they ask the soul, what do you think? Was this person a righteous person or a not righteous person? And the soul will say, not righteous. Everybody says not righteous. And so he passes judgment. He says, not righteous. Then they say, okay, let's look a little bit deeper over here. Who is oops. Sorry. Just lost. Who is what am I saying? Oh, then they show them the evidence. Why did a person do like this? What sort of what led him to act this way? In other words, they show the evidence, and they basically convince you that you're not all that bad. Basically, you were put into a certain circumstance that you weren't. It's not your fault. It was against your will. All these things that you did, and so therefore, the soul then feels a certain embarrassment for the way it acted, but it's not punished. And the embarrassment is like a cleansing period. Yeah, you ever been really embarrassed? You probably you'll always remember that embarrassing moment from when you're 4 years old or 5 years old. That is one opinion of what does it mean Gehenna? What is the Gehenna period? Now, again, this is not like a physical thing going on. I don't know. I can't describe it to you. I don't know what it looks like. Just like I can't tell you what an angel looks like, a malach. These are spiritual concepts, but nevertheless, they are true. Yes. Okay. Anybody have any questions? Those were just a few questions that I got. Sarah, Josh, Bella. Anyway, I turned it off the.
I do.
Yeah, sure. Great.
I think it was in the Rambam. It states something about when a child does something wrong, that falls on the parent. And I was wondering about like, okay, for instance, my daughter like just recently told me, she's like, Mom, I just want to tell you that I watched something on the internet that I think I shouldn't have watched, and it was like just this video, about like, I don't know, like that, yeah, I think it probably, I mean, yeah, I think she shouldn't have watched, because it was something that, just isn't good for, her soul, I guess you can say. You know what I mean? Like it's not, so anyways, how would that affect me, or how does that work? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. I don't think I've heard that. I don't think that it affects you spiritually. I think the Rambam is speaking in terms of, it's a reflection upon you that your child would make a certain decision. Yeah, a lot of people say, oh, a child who acts a certain way. Well, it's first look to the parents, but again, I don't think it's like a spiritual thing. Plus, a child is a child. Like they're very innocent, and they do things in a very innocent way. They're not held. Nothing happens to them. Obviously, they're not held reliable to anything. Really, we're not held reliable until we're 20 years old. Some say 18, 13, 18, but it's according to the Torah, it's 20 years old. No reflection on you. Nothing. None of that is going to, in a spiritual sense, that doesn't affect you in any way. But your job, but education of your child, there's a misconception of what a child is. A child, just like the body, a child is given to you on loan, so to speak. You're not in charge of the child. Meaning, I'm sorry, you're not in control of the child. Your job is to educate the child and to be a mentor and guide the child to the right path. But the child doesn't belong to you. The child belongs to God. Just like your body. Why do you have to keep their body healthy? Because the body doesn't belong to you. Who are you? You're the soul. The body was given to you by God to be able to accomplish its mission here in this world. It's a vehicle for you, but it's like a lease. The proof is when a person passes away, the body goes back to, you can't take the body with you. It has nothing to do with you. The same thing, in a certain sense, the child is, you have to look at a child. Somebody once asked the Rebbe, I have a problem, I hit my child. When I get angry, I get upset, and the child does something wrong, and I hit the child. The child is not your, the Rebbe said, well, okay, fine. Think about, right before you hit your child, understand that this is God's child. It's not your child. But just to go back to your question, I've never seen that it affects you or it's a reflection on you. In other words, it's not if a child makes a certain decision. Now, if you do something to the child, that's a problem on you. But if the child does something on their own, it's not me. I've never seen
okay.
that. Yeah.
Thank you. I was just curious.
Sorry, yeah.
But I'm glad that she, recognized and she came up to me, you know what I mean? But yeah, I was just curious if like that, if, reflects on me or, yeah. Thank you. You answered it.
Okay.
My question.
Okay. Awesome. Anybody else? This is what happens. You don't send me so many questions. You think of another question, a common question. The body, a child. Mm-hmm. There's something interesting. There's a question of what does it mean, be fruitful and multiply? What is that? There's a mitzvah. God gave a mitzvah to Adam and Chava, to Adam and Eve, to be fruitful and multiply. And we know that refers to children. So how many children do you need to accomplish that? There's two opinions. One opinion, and it's usually the accepted opinion, that you try to have a boy and a girl. Now, whether you have a boy and a girl is not up to you. But a boy and a girl fulfills that mitzvah. And some say two boys. Two boys. I don't know why it's two boys, but that's the mitzvah. Now, there are certain mitzvahs that we won't be able to accomplish. Yeah, sometimes you won't be able to. We're not able to fulfill every mitzvah. So don't think if you haven't fulfilled that mitzvah or you didn't or you won't fulfill that mitzvah, it's okay. There are many mitzvahs. Like first one, most mitzvahs have to do with a Kohen living in the land of Israel. I'm not a Kohen. I don't live in the land of Israel. Have to do with the times of the temple. If the temple is standing, we don't have the temple right now. should have it immediately, but we don't have it right now. Shluach Hakan, there's a mitzvah. There are two mitzvahs that will give you longevity. Honoring your parents, not loving your parents, by the way. Honoring your parents. There are ramifications. What does that mean to honor your parents? And one is called Shiluach Hakan, sending away the mother bird. There's a mitzvah that if you come across a kosher bird, you come across it. You don't look for it. You come across a kosher bird. And there are eggs. She has eggs in her basket. You send away the mother bird and you take the eggs. It's a very interesting mitzvah. I don't know if you put the eggs back. I'm not sure. It's not a mitzvah that I ever came across, and I don't know anybody that's ever done it. But those are two mitzvahs for longevity. Anyway, that second mitzvah of Sheluach Hakan, I don't know anybody that's ever done it. I don't really think it happened. Yeah. Anybody have any questions? All right. If there's no more questions, then I'm signing off. Send me your questions. By the way, anytime you have a question, voice note it to me very quickly, and I will answer it. As I'm sure most of you realize, I answer it right away. And if I find it to be interesting enough to share to everybody else, I ask you, do you mind if I share it with other people? And that's basically how I get my questions. Okay. All right, everybody. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Tomorrow night. And then and then we'll have the Tanya class Thursday night. Continue with Tanya. All right, be well.